Hi everybody, Mr. Owens here. I'm going to go over rational numbers. And before I do, I just want to remind you, if you're watching this video, I want to remind you that math can be really difficult sometimes, and rational numbers is not an easy skill or concept. So I want to remind you to just be patient with yourself and be kind to yourself. You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. All right? So let's get started. Rational numbers are pretty simple of an idea, but they're really hard to deal with. So the Edgenuity will give you a lot of different definitions, but the simplest, most easiest definition is a rational number is any number, positive or negative, that can be written as a fraction. So let me say that again. It's any number, positive or negative, that can be written as a fraction. So examples of this, let me use a different color. So this means that this can be a whole number, right? This can be a whole number because you could write any whole number as a fraction as like the number 2 can be written as 2 over 1, right? Or 100 over 1 is 100, okay? It also means it can be a decimal that repeats or ends. So what I mean by that is like 0.25 ends, right? Ends after the 5, or 0.3 repeating, right? The 3 repeats. It's 0.3333333 and so on forever. But it's not just the first decimal that has to repeat. So it could be like 0.16 repeating, right? And the 6 is the repeating part. So as long as it repeats or ends, it is a rational number, okay? And these can be positive or negative. So Edgenuity will give you all these definitions, kind of confuse you, but just very simple, it's any number that can be written as a fraction. And I would recommend that you look in the word rational for this word ratio, right? We know that ratios are a comparison of two things written as a fraction. So a rational number is anything that can be written as a fraction, okay? Now, before we get started, going over how to add and subtract rational numbers, I do want to just review integers with you real quick, all right? So this first one, remember integers are positive or negative whole numbers. And the reason I want to review this is because the skill of adding and subtracting rational numbers is exactly the same as for integers. However, it's a lot trickier because decimals and fractions are difficult, right? So it requires a really good understanding of the number line. So let's start with this one. So -4 plus -3. Remember, our steps are number one, our first step is we are going to start at the first number, and then we're going to see which way to move. We're going to be using number lines. And our third step is going to be to move, okay? So what I mean by that, I'll show you what I mean. So we're going to start at the first number, which is -4. We're going to start -4 on the number line. And then we're adding -3. So when you add a negative, you move to the left. You're getting more negative, okay? So when we add a negative, we're going to the left, okay? So we're adding -3 plus -3. So and then we move 3, right? 1, 2, 3. And you need to know, right? You need to know which numbers come next. So this is why understand the number line is important. So here's -5, -6, -7. So this answer is -7. Okay? -4 plus -3 equals -7. Okay? And then let's try just one more, kind of the opposite. -4 minus -3. So we'll start again at the first number of -4. And when we subtract a negative, you're doing the opposite of subtraction. You're moving the opposite direction of normal subtraction. Normal subtraction, you move left, so we're going to go to the right. If you want to think about this like with our stick figure, right? You're facing forwards, and then you turn around for each time you see a minus sign. Each time you see a negative sign. And remember, subtraction and negative signs are the same thing. So here you have one negative sign and then two negative signs. So you're facing forwards, you turn around once, then you turn around twice. So you're facing the forwards direction. Then we'll move 1, 2, 3 spaces, okay? Now you just need to know what comes next on the number line. So here's -3, -2, -1. So -4 minus -3 is -1, okay? All right, so that's a little confusing. If you need to review that, I've made videos in the past going over that. So I know it went kind of quick, but I have other videos going over that. So let's try a couple problems with decimals, okay? So this is where it gets a little tricky, all right? A little tricky. So same problem, really. Instead of -4, we have -4.1, right? 4 1/10. So -4 1/10 plus -3. So let's make our number line, and we start at the first number. Now there's a couple different ways to do this. If you want to break this down into -4 and -1/10, you can do that, okay? So I'll go through this doing both of these two different strategies, okay? The first way, I'm just going to start at -4.1. And if you want to use the person right facing forwards, there's one negative sign right here. So you're going to turn around. So you're going to move this way by 3. You're going to move smaller to the left by 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. And maybe you can understand what's about to happen here. 1 less than -4.1 is -5.1. And then -6.1 and -7.1. Okay, so this equals -7.1. So once again, it's the same skill as integers, but it's a lot trickier because of the decimal, all right? The other way you can do this is if you want to take this -4 and start at -4, okay? And then you want to add the -3, so you go 1, 2, 3, so -5, -6, -7. That's fine. And then you need to then put in the -0.1, so then go -0.1. Okay, so this would end up at -7.1, right? So if you want to break it up, you can do that as well, all right? Okay, so actually I'm not going to do this next problem because it operates the same way, but I do want to go over kind of how the number line works because you're going to need to understand the number line. So if we have the number 0 here, say this is -1, this is +1. You're going to need to understand these decimals in here, right? And you're going to also need to know their corresponding fractions. So if you remember to the beginning of the year, or if you think back to 6th grade, you worked a lot on converting decimals to fractions and percents. And you're going to need to understand this, right? In order to be able to do these problems. So, oops, sorry about that. So you're going to need to, sometimes I like to just make a number line to kind of help me out here because it can get a little confusing. So you might notice that like we have -0.25, -0.5, -0.75, -1, right? And the fractions are on top. Now to the right over here, this would be -1.25. This is -1 and 1/4, or -5/4. Right, and this would be 4/4. So, oh, I forgot the negatives. Sorry about that. So the way that this moves, the number line moves, you might notice, right? So it will just be important for you to kind of get used to writing the numbers and seeing how the number line works on the negatives with decimals, okay? It is pretty tricky. It gets really, really difficult. So you might notice, right, the decimals are kind of confusing. I want you to just get used to this. If you want to write this down and kind of look at it, think about it, try some problems. So let's do one together. So what if we had like -1.5 plus, or I'll do actually 1.5 minus -3/4, okay? Now you might look at this and go, oh my God, I can't do this. First step, take a deep breath, okay? So we're gonna start at this first number, right? We're gonna start at -1.5 right here. And I know that -3/4 is the same as -0.75, okay? So if I want to do that, I can, or if I want to go by fourths, I can. I'm going to choose to go by fourths, go 1/4 at a time, right? Because I made my number line with fourths. It's -1/4, this is -2/4, -3/4, -4/4, -5/4, and so on. So I know I'm going to move 3 groups of 1/4. So I'm going here. I'm going to go 1, that's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, okay? So I knew which way I was moving. I knew I was moving to the right, and I ended up right here. It's -0.75. Once again, this is really tricky. So again, if you're feeling a little confused, take a deep breath, be kind to yourself, be patient with yourself. This is not easy. You can email me if you need any help. Even if you're not in my virtual school class, you can still email me. Just let me know.